Hey there, District 33. I'm Steven Seafelt, safety officer for the district. I'm excited to do the online safety clinic for you today. So if you'd like to follow along while watching this, you can go to the District 33 website under forums, and you can find the safety handout. There's two handouts. There's a presenter and a handout. What I would say is print this out or follow online as we're going over. So we'll be covering a bevy of topics today, everything from broken bones to heat exhaustion to concussions to how managers and coaches can monitor their players. If you have any questions, there'll be information at the end, or again, you can follow on the handout and follow up with your local safety officer for your league, or contact someone from District 33 from the website. So first thing I'd like to cover is muscle and skeletal. So this is everything from broken bones to pulled muscles to strains, and specifically want to talk about overuse, overexertion for our players. So the first thing is going to be muscle and skeletal, broken bones. Outside of the obvious broken bone where there's something showing or the player is in intense pain, none of us have x-ray vision, so we can't tell what's happening. So a really good course of action is talk to the player. Ask them, where does it hurt? Can you move this? Can you do that? And always err on the side of caution. If the player is in obvious pain or is complaining or having issues with a bone, a muscle, any part of their body, remove them from the game, partner with their parent. If needed, call EMS, Emergency Management Services. You can call, if you need to, call 911 and really triage or look at the injury in the moment. Next thing I want to talk about is falls. So although we don't have a ton of falls on the baseball field, sometimes kids will dive for a ball, sometimes they will climb up on a fence or a dugout for a ball and fall down. But anytime a player falls or an adult falls, we want to make sure that they're stabilized. So we want to make sure that their head is okay. We want to evaluate for concussion and make sure if there's any injury to the extremities that we evaluate that just like we would as a player on the field. But falls, trips, diving for a ball, anything like that, just making sure we're really evaluating that player in the moment. And next is muscle strains or sprains, anything along those lines with the muscles. So if a player is complaining about, like they would for a broken bone, if they're complaining about a ankle, one of their extremities in pain, again, evaluate. A good practice is just let them sit for a minute and see if they continue the pain continues or the discomfort continues. They can always stretch very softly and see if that helps out at all. Again, evaluating in the moment, speaking to the player, communicating, as well as communicating with the family to make sure there's no prior injury or prior issue there would be something that is very helpful. So for all of these injuries, after your evaluation, keep it still, apply ice. If there's an obvious need to call EMS or 911, please do so. But your evaluation as a coach and manager is important, as well as communication with the player and or their parents. So another thing I'd like to talk about is overuse. So overuse injuries are a result of excessive throwing, hitting, you name it. The big key here is communication. Communication with the player's parents or guardians, communication with the player themselves, and a knowledge of what they've done and how much they are throwing, running, whatever that would apply to. Of overuse is a player will be, they'll have a sore elbow, sore shoulder, again, knees, any of the extremities that are overused. They will complain, or you'll notice them cringing when they're throwing, running, any of those things. Once we evaluate that, once we talk through that, again, icing, communication, like I said, is key, and making sure that that player is safe and able to play for the long term. And in closing, for muscle and skeletal, with all of these situations, if the player does go to the doctor, does go to the hospital, we need to make sure they return to play in a proper and safe manner. A lot of information, more information, is online. If you have any questions, you can contact your local safety officer or anybody at the district level, and we will help you out. Thank you. All right, next I'd like to talk about environmental injuries and situations. So first would be heat exhaustion, heat stroke. And I'd like to have a fine line between those two. So heat exhaustion or heat illness is similar to dehydration. The player will be lethargic, and commonly they are overheated. It's something a term you'll hear used. The treatment for this is getting them off the field, out of the element. Obviously, calling timeout. You can stop the practice, stop the game. Get them in a cool area. They can go into a car that's air conditioned. They can go inside. They can go or indoors, something that's nice and cool. But cooling them down and hydrating are the two big pieces here. If the player does not respond or continues to get progresses in the heat exhaustion or dehydration, whatever it may be, again, contact EMS, but please evaluate and stay close to that situation. Now, heat stroke is something completely different. This is a situation where the player or individual will stop sweating. They have a very high internal temperature. They will become almost unresponsive and go into a form of shock. In this situation, it's a much more dire situation, and we want to make sure we respond effectively and immediately. Some things we can do for that is taking ice, putting ice underneath the arms, putting it in the shirt to make sure that they're cooling down immediately. Again, with the heat stroke, where they're not responding, where they're stopped sweating, that's we want to contact emergency services immediately and have them come out, because this is much more dire than heat exhaustion. So one of the first things we want to do as a manager or coach is wherever we're playing, whether it be a field, a batting cage, whatever it may be, is just look around to make sure the area is safe. Are there any animal holes? Are there any sticks or roots or something that a player would trip on, fall on, or get stuck on? Look at the dugout. Is there any obvious signs of wear? Is there any nails or screws or anything sticking up that might injure one of our players or coaches or parents? And we really want to focus on that prevention piece. So, another aspect of that is really making sure that our players before the games are stretching, that they're really getting loose and warm before they participate in any strenuous baseball activity. Next, let's talk about allergies and asthma. With both of these issues, and when I say allergies, I mean severe allergies where someone would require an EpiPen. But for both of those, if someone has a prescribed EpiPen or an inhaler, it must be current and it must be with the player at practices and at games. So in these situations, if a player has, usually the player knows they're having an asthma attack. If they don't, that's something, again, communication is key. So whether they have a severe allergy to something in the environment or it's asthma related, we want to make sure that we pay close attention to that, and those devices are up to date and on their person or in their bag. If as a coach or manager you feel uncomfortable administering the inhaler and or the EpiPen, you can always contact the parent if they're there to say, hey, listen, can you please do this? A lot of players that use this know how to use it. Just make sure, again, if you see that player has an allergy or has any of these issues, that you're communicating with the parent so that you're both on the same page with regard to use of said devices. And next, any environmental issues such as bugs, snakes, critters, animals, whatever it may be. Sometimes our players and or coaches will have an encounter with one of these creatures, if I may. If something like this happens, if it's a bite or a sting, obviously there's an allergy, then we've already covered that. But if it's a bite or sting, we can clean it off and make sure that it doesn't increase in swelling or redness. If it does, then again, communication, contact emergency professional. Specifically with snake bites, we don't want anything to constrict the area, the arm, the extremity. We do want to have it laid flat, but again, a lot more information online for all of these situations. And if you have any questions, please contact your local safety officer. All right, so I'd like to talk about concussions. So as managers and coaches, we all take a completely separate concussion and traumatic brain injury course certification, if I may. So please refer to that or refresh yourself if you need to once a season, several times a season, to make sure that you have the most current and up-to-date information. But with regard to a concussion, it's a brain injury. It can happen in a variety of different ways, but two of the most common ways are a direct contact with the head to, whether it be a solid surface or even a non-solid surface. And sometimes it happens with indirect contact. If maybe one of our smaller players, falls on the ground and a little bit of jiggle here and there, and something could happen. But I think the most important piece to concussions is evaluation and communication. So evaluation, obviously, if the player has lost consciousness at any point, that's a severe issue. If they have ringing in their ears, that's a more severe issue. If they're vomiting, if they're doing something along those lines, that's a severe issue. If you notice a change in behavior, so if it's a very outgoing, loud child, and all of a sudden they're just very quiet and sitting in the corner, maybe a little bit different, that's something that is a sign of a change in behavior. With all of these, making sure that we are evaluating, communicating with the parents, and letting them make that decision if they want to take them to the hospital or be evaluated further. In any of these occasions, we want to remove that player from the field of play, and we want to sit down and have that individual evaluation and make sure that we're making the right decision for the player, for the league, and to make sure everyone is safe. Okay. Another additional training that is required for all managers and coaches is sudden cardiac arrest. So if I'll let you refer to the training, or if you have the training, make sure you refresh yourself on it as a manager and coach. But just very quickly on SCA, if this occurs at the field at a practice, if someone loses consciousness, first thing we want to do is evaluate and check for a pulse. So easiest place to check for the pulse is right on the wrist with 2 fingers, not using your thumb. And if there is no pulse, then start compressions. Obviously this person is unconscious. We're starting compressions then. And if the league has an AED, direct someone else, if there's someone else there, to go get that AED. So for any more information on SCA, you can visit the District 33 website, or you can contact your league safety officer. Okay, so with regard to general injuries or facial injuries or anything, eyes, teeth, mouth, whatever it may be, I think the big piece is all of us are managers and coaches, right? Most of us are parents, right? Either are, have been, whatever you want to say, but I think the biggest piece is common sense. So if someone has a facial injury, or they're struck by the ball or a bat or something to the face, obviously if they lose consciousness, follow concussion protocol. But if it's a contusion, a raspberry, whatever it may be, usually kids under 10, ice fixes everything. Ice and a Band-Aid, right? If it's more serious, evaluate the situation, evaluate the injury, and if it requires medical attention, then seek medical attention. Specifically for teeth or the mouth, again, if a player has lost teeth, pick them up. Do what we need to, but contact, get that player medical attention. For anything to the eye, so if they've been struck in the eye or part of the face with a ball. Again, if there's something that's broken, or the player is in obvious pain, or we need to follow concussion protocol, those are separate roads we can go down. But just evaluate. Ice usually to the area will fix it or help the swelling go down. And if there's any other issues, you can partner with the parents or communicate and go from there. All right. So, and in closing, just making sure from a safety standpoint, as managers and coaches, it's our responsibility to make sure our players, parents, coaches, managers, ourselves are safe on the field, whether it be practice or a game. So making sure that we're following protocol. I think one of the big pointers here is making sure every single player has their medical release form with a wet signature in the possession of the manager or coach at all times. And this will include anything that we talked about, things like allergies, if they have an EpiPen, their contact information for their doctors and our emergency contacts if needed. But make sure we have those, and a couple other safety equipment issues. I think making sure that any gear, so specifically catcher's gear, the helmet has a throat guard, but making sure the helmet fits correctly. Make sure there's not any bolts or screws or straps or anything missing, especially in the shin guards and the chest protector. Making sure all of our players have a cup. Making sure a fun activity at the beginning is just have the players line up and say, hey, does everyone have their cup? And 10-year-old kids usually like to show that they have their cup. So just making sure that we're safe and we're playing safe. And if individual players have a guard or something they're using, making sure it's being used the right way and being used properly. At the end of the day, safety is a responsibility of all, but specifically for us as coaches and managers, we want to make sure our players, participants, coaches, managers, parents are all safe on the field and have fun. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hi everybody from District 33. Welcome to our first ever online coaches clinic. So first let me talk about Little League. So the purpose of Little League is not just baseball. Yes, we love winning, we love bringing home those flags, but our sole purpose is to make better people, to give kids that experience of baseball to make better people. So we're teaching them life skills, we're teaching them how to be responsible, teaching them work ethic, how to work as a team, how to lose with class, how to win with class, how to face your problems head on, how to get a goal, figure out how you're going to achieve it, and then actually go for it and do it. So that when they grow up to be good, functioning adults, and then they're more employable, they're better people, and that is what our focus is, not so much just winning a game. So if you think about it, less than 1% of these kids are going to be MLB players. It's great if they do, but realistically, they're not all going to be MLB players. And so we want to focus on the bigger picture and not just winning Little League games. So as a coach, you must lead by example. You're a role model not only for your players and the kids on the field, but you're also a role model for the other adults, including the parents. So if they hear you saying, oh, this umpire is making bad calls, they're going to repeat the same thing on the outside of the fence, start a little rally going on, and it's going to cause a hostile environment. But if you keep your cool, you're like, oh no, it's okay. I feel like that was a bad call, but he's calling the, it evens out on both sides. It's okay. Or yeah, maybe he made a bad call, but there's nothing we can do about that. Let's focus on what we can do next. So remember that you are a role model for not just the kids, but for the parents as well. And other coaches. You may have some newer coaches and they look to you as an example of how they will then act as a coach. You represent your team, your community, your league, and so you want to put your best foot forward. So your team. As manager and coach, you are responsible for keeping your team organized and all in line. So you want to make sure that you have rules and you want to make sure you're consistent, which means the rule when the manager in charge should be the same rules when a coach is in charge. And if for whatever reason a coach manager has to leave and a parent has to come in, the same rules apply. So that way the kids don't think it's a free-for-all when the manager is not there. So make sure that you make those rules known first day of practice, these are the rules, and make sure you follow through, because the moment you stop following through, those kids will eat you up. So you have to make sure that you stay consistent with your rules. Be available with your communication. So make sure your parents can get a hold of you, your kids can get a hold of you. You want to make sure that there's an open communication between everybody, so that way you're all on the same page, and if somebody needs something, they feel comfortable enough that they can come to you with a problem. This will be especially important when you get into injuries, and you and your parent have to work with a return to play protocol. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but it's good to know the protocols just in case. Another thing is expectations. Make sure that everybody's clear of the expectations, what they can expect from you. You're going to be to practice on time. You're going to teach skills in a certain way. You're going to push the kids, but not too much, or whatever it is that your expectations are from them to have for you. And then vice versa, what you expect from them. You expect them to get their kids on time, for them to have their gloves, to have a water bottle each practice. Whatever those expectations are, make sure they're clear from both sides from day one. The other things you need to remember as a coach with your team is to be prepared. So what that means is you come in with plan A. I'm going to run this drill, then this drill, then that drill. Plan B. I'm the only coach that showed up and I've got 20 kids. What are you going to do? Okay, plan B. And then plan C, I wanted to do all these drills with these stations, but only 5 kids showed up. All right, so we can adjust. We'll do a hitting practice and focus on this, or focus on skills that we couldn't do as a big group. So make sure you have plan A, plan B, plan C, all the way through Z, because in Little League, things happen. So you have to be prepared for all of it. So things have changed since we were little. It used to be elbow up, do it a certain way, very rigid on things. And nowadays it's not so much. There's new science and people are learning different ways of doing things. And so stay up to date on what's current and what's new. Go online, take extra clinics, whatever. Just make sure that you know your stuff. So your responsibilities as managers and coaches. You have to make sure you prep the fields, lock up the equipment after use, bring the equipment to games, have your balls, have your equipment. The manager is responsible to make sure that they have the binder with the medical releases and they all have wet signatures, and those will be at every game and every practice. We'll get to that in a little bit. Also, they have to know how to report an injury in case that happens, and that will go to your safety officer. They have to keep pitch count. Now that can be done by the coach or the manager, and any of these responsibilities, the manager and the coach can decide, okay, you be responsible for this, and the manager will let them know, or her, what they need help with, and they can delegate, because you're a coaching team, not just one person handing out things. So that person can get help from the coaching team. So as you know, since you were here taking a clinic, you know that clinics are required. So there's a couple things that are required to coach. One, the background check or volunteer app. You must do that every year. Once you're done, you're good for the year. Now there's 3 one-time only, and you take them once and they're good for your entire coaching career so far, as we know, unless they change state laws. But right now it's just once and you're good to go. The concussion training, abuse awareness, which is mandatory reporting, and the CPR or setting cardiac arrest. Each one of those, you'll get a link from your coach, coordinator, or president. You click on the link, do the class, take the test, and you get a little certificate. I suggest you take a screenshot of that certificate with your name on it, because during tournaments or games, if anybody asks for it, which they will, you can just pull it up on your phone instead of having to find it somewhere in your binder or papers. Take a screenshot to show it to them, and then you're good to go for that tournament. And the last thing is the coach's skills clinic, the fundamentals, and the safety clinic. Those are required depending on the league every year or every couple years. District requirement is you must be current within the last 2 years. So for this year, 2021, you can have 2019, 2020, or 2021 in order to coach. However, there is the rule that whoever is on site with the players must be current with 2021. So if there's a game and the manager who has 2021 is not there and the coaches only have 2020, then that team cannot play until someone that has the current 2021 year can play. So because of that, it makes sense to just take it every year. Also, it's good to take clinics, because even though, like, I've been coaching over 10 years, I know some of you have been here longer than me. And so you know what's at the clinics, you know what you're going to get. But I mean, even I learn new things every time I go. It may not be a different drill, but it might be a different way to approach a skill, a different way to teach something that you already know. Because once you have a couple different ways of teaching something, you've got all that in your repertoire, then you can teach that to the kids a lot better. So it's always going to take clinics. So one of the first things that you are going to do with your new team is to send them a welcome email. So back in the day, it used to be a little handout, but nowadays everything's online. So just send them an email. You could do it old school if you want. It's up to you. So basically, you're just going to introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Coach So-and-so. These are our coaches. These are our practice coaches. And then you'll tell them the rules, the expectations, what they can expect from you, what you expect from them, pertinent dates, so tournaments, practice days, game days, a pitcher day. You want to make sure they know all of that. And then what they need to buy. So some people come in and they're very new to baseball, especially if you're teaching t-ball, and they don't know what they need. So you can say, oh, well, our league provides the belts and the hats and the shirts. So you need to buy the pants and the socks. Some leagues provide the socks. So find out what they need to buy, and you could say, we provide this, you need to provide that. And then they know exactly what to expect going on, and it's right there in writing. And part of that welcome letter, you're going to include the team rules. So on there, this was mine from a few years ago, to be on time, be responsible. For the older kids, I have them clean up their own dugout. I don't have the moms coming in here, tying laces, putting their stuff back in their backpacks. For minors and above, you can even start this at caps. Start having them be responsible for their own stuff. At the end, put your glove in your bag, make sure you throw your water bottle out, stuff like that, to teach them responsibility. And it says here, team gear first, personal gear second. So we have the team put away the tee, the L screen, the catcher's gear, and then they can pack away their own stuff, because you don't want them just packing their stuff and neglecting the rest of it. And this, again, helps foster that team environment. And then no one leaves the dugout till it's clean. Be respectful. This includes to other adults and to players and players on other teams. We don't want them in the dugout making fun of people. That's not cool. Says violence of any kind will not be tolerated. That's horseplay. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's just a little bit, it's fine, but it escalates quickly. And once you allow something, then something else bigger that will happen. And they'll say, well, why didn't you call it out here? It becomes the whole thing. So if I were you, I would just make sure you have the rules and make everybody abide by them from the beginning, so you don't have to worry about that in the future. Okay, so your first practice is going to look a little different. The first part of your first practice is going to be a lot of administrative stuff. You should have a binder, and somewhere in your binder, you'll have your contact list, your players, their age, emails, all that. So what you're going to do in the first practice is have the parents look at it and make sure that that information is correct. So they may have an email address that's better than what they had put in the registration, or they don't want to give you a cell phone number that's better than what's on here. So have them look at it and then have them give you the best mode of contact for them. Some people prefer email, some people prefer text. Ask them what they prefer, and then you can go with that. Okay. There used to be a safety plan in here. Now it is online. So most of your safety plans will be online, and your safety officer can help you get a hold of that if you need to. Another thing you will have in your binder are medical releases. These are very important. You have to have these at every practice and every game, and it must be a wet signature, which means it's not a photocopy of a signature. It's an actual signature on this piece of paper. So you'll go through, have all your parents sign it. A lot of leagues have digital copies put in the binders, and so you will have to have your parents come in and actually sign them on day one. So you can go through, make sure they have their emergency contact on there and any medical condition. They must bring all their medications to every practice and game, not just games, must be to practices as well. And it cannot be expired. So a lot of times an epi might be good a little bit afterwards, and the parents know that and everybody knows that. But for Little League purposes, it cannot be expired. You must go by that date. So if it says May 2021, at the end of May 2021, they cannot use it anymore. They must have one that's past, that's June or past. And they can use that other one for at home or whatever else. But for Little League purposes, for insurance purposes, they must bring unexpired medications for every game and practice. And that's for inhalers, EpiPens, those kind of medications. If it's Ritalin or if it's something like a pill that they take every day, they do not need to bring that. We get that question a lot. Anything like that, they do not need to bring that to every game in practice. Only those those life-saving interventions that you must have at a game or practice. So that is your medical release. In addition to the medical releases, a lot of leagues have parent code of conducts, you have players code of conducts, and coaches code of conduct. So make sure whatever your league requires, all of those are done and in the binder, so that when you're tournament season, you're all ready to go. And now we will discuss pitching. So there are pitching limits per age. So a 13-year-old can only pitch so many pitches. A catcher can only catch so many pitches before he is not allowed to pitch himself. I think it's innings now. So make sure that you are familiar with all the rules on pitching and catching and vice versa. Know the limits. They're there for a reason. Now let's talk about why those pitching limits exist. So anybody that knows me personally knows I will go crazy over pitching your kids. So when you see the kid out there and he starts doing this, chances are he's just about done. And if he keeps doing it, pull him out. It's not worth it. It is not worth ruining an 8-year-old's arm just so you can win one Little League game. That doesn't even matter, because their end game is, to go to high school, to get a scholarship, to go to college. Like, that's when their baseball career becomes a lot more important. Nobody cares if you won a Little League game at the age of 10 or 12. Nobody cares. What's important is that kid's shoulder is healthy, so that way he can grow up and pitch or catch or whatever it is that he's doing. So do not overpitch your kid for a Little League game. If that kid is also playing travel ball, if you can, please contact the other coach. Do not rely on the kid, because I love kids, you love kids, but they're little liars. They will lie to you and be like, oh no, I didn't pitch yesterday. They could have pitched 65 pitches in a game. They're gonna tell you no, because they wanna pitch. And if you ask them, hey, how's your arm? Can you pitch today? They're always gonna say yes. It could be falling out of socket and they're still gonna tell you yes, because a lot of these kids love this game and they do not want to be pulled out, and they do not want to disappoint their team, and they don't want to disappoint you. So you have to be the adult in the situation, see what's going on, and then you make the correct assessment whether he really can play or it's best if he takes him out. And sometimes parents will get mad at that too, but you have to do what's right for that kid and his shoulder health. And that concludes our general session of coaching for the Coaches Clinic. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, email, text message, whatever you like. I'm always available.
A warm-up throwing progression that you like to use at the beginning of practice. After stretch, after plyometrics, you can really use this. You can use any variation that you want. If you have something you want to use yourself, that's perfectly fine, but this is a really good example. So what we're going to start with is just either the elbow on the glove, in the glove, however you like to do, and you can do it from your knees, standing, and really get that ball and just engage the wrist here, just like they're doing. Just close together. Again, we're starting close. It's the beginning of our progression. So just moving through. And then guys, can you go down on one knee? So you can go down on one knee. You can go down on two knees. You can really do this any way you'd like. But the really point of it is to get that wrist engaged. Not the whole arm, if they're doing the whole arm, but really get that wrist engaged just like here with a normal grip. All right, next is step throwing progression, excuse me. They're gonna have their feet planted, okay? And I'm right-handed, so they're gonna do just a twist. They're gonna go glove side, reach back off the shelf, arm side, and throw. So as you can see, what they're doing here is they're going glove side, arm side, and throwing. Their feet are set. They're really focusing on the upper portion of their body to get the upper portion, the shoulders, the arms engaged. A really important one here is making sure they're reaching way back off the shelf. If you've got throwers that throw kind of the chicken wing or anything like that, this is a really good one to go glove side, arm side. They're reaching back off the shelf, separating, and throwing forward. And that's what they're really working on here. Okay, next is just in the progression, so just a regular step and throw. What we want to do here is making sure that they're stepping, getting that leg engaged, and coming through. Again, they're going to take the two things they already have done. They're going to take the wrist engagement. They're going to take getting off that shelf, twisting and coming forward using the lower body. Now they're going to engage the lower body and the legs. So again, what we want to focus on here is coming way back, separating, throwing forward, making sure our players are making those good throws, centralized in the chest or to the glove. All right, so as you notice with each progression, you're moving further and further back. As you have your team and one lined up on the line and the other line, what I would do is recommend is just designate one player to say, okay, move back after every 10 throws and go through it. You teach this progression once or twice to your team, especially the upper levels, and they're gonna understand, they're gonna get it, and they're gonna be able to do that at the beginning of practice. It gives you time as a coach to set the field, write a lineup, whatever you need to do. But what we're doing next is what we call rocker. So the big piece here is getting transferring that weight forward, then backwards, and then transferring through. Again, we're doing everything we've already done. We're engaging the wrist. We're going forward, backwards, and coming through the ball, as you can see they're doing here. All right, next step in the progression, you can do about the same distance as you do for the rockers. Is a quick release. And the big piece here, as you can see behind me, is you really want the players kind of on the ball of their feet like an infielder, and they're coming and they're moving through, almost like a catcher drill, but they're moving through and they're ready to throw as they're getting the ball. What this is really going to teach is quick hands, okay, quick hand to glove, whatever it may be, but it's really teaching to stay light on their feet, stay quick on their feet. And as you get going, you can have them go faster and faster as they get this going. What you'll see is if they do this in warm-ups, you'll start seeing this in the game, whether they're playing second base, outfield, whatever. You'll see them as they catch the ball, they're turning their body as they're catching the ball. So this is a big piece that you don't want to have them overthrow it. You just want to make sure that they're coming through every time and really getting that quick turn. All right, the last one in the progression is long toss. So you want them, as long as they can get, again, different levels. They're going to throw different distances and different powers. You want to try, with their warm-up partner to match them up with someone that's, similar skill level, similar. You don't want to match up someone who's, beginner with someone who's throwing heat, right? But here the big piece is kind of shuffle step back, couple shuffle steps, a crow hop forward. And as we progress through and we get 10 throws in, then again, your leader, they're going to break it down. So when I say break it down, they're going to get closer and they're going to do grounders on the way back in. So as you can see here, there's two pieces to this drill. One is the ball doesn't necessarily have to get to them in the glove every single time. A one hop, a two hop is perfectly okay. But the big piece is keeping the ball in front of them. Okay? The throw is one, but keeping the ball in front of them as a player is also the second step. If you've got players that are throwing way over the head, they're throwing too hard. They're going over there and need to back up and get some more space. Just really want to focus on coming through the ball. And as you can see, go ahead and break it down, guys. So now they're going to do grounders, as they move forward. So the person who's the furthest away that's not on the baseline is just going to move in, and they're going to throw grounders and try to hopefully field them very well to each other. And they're just going to walk it in as they continue to kind of break this down until they get to the length they were with the original drill. And that's our throwing progression.
I'm going to show you a great drill that you can do for throwing. This is good from T-ball all the way on up. So this one will introduce them to throwing, and for the bigger kids, it helps them hone in that strike zone. So behind me here I have a carpet. This I got from Home Depot. You could just get a sample carpet and then throw some carabiners on there, and then you could hook it up to the fence. This is great if you are a coach that's all by yourself, if none of your other coaches showed up. This is a great one for that because you could have some kids throwing on the carpets while you're working with another group. So what you're going to have them do, you're going to set up cones a certain distance away, whether it's T-balls a little closer, obviously, and then as your division is higher, you're going to put that cone further and further back. Good job. Here's another one. Okay, what we're going to do here, we're going to step and hold this ball. Now when it comes to the little guys, sometimes you have to manually adjust them, and that's fine. You're going to point with your elbow, point with your front foot, and you're going to throw it overhand, right at that carpet, and throw it. Good job. Here's another one. another drill that you can do not only for pitchers, but it's great for teaching your kids how to throw in general. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna just do a low 5. You're gonna stand right in front of your player, and from the stretch, or if you're just teaching them throw, just have them get a good throwing stance. And they're just gonna have that hand behind them and back, and bring it forward, and they're just gonna low 5 your hand. So this one is really good, especially for pitchers, because if they're not coming far enough forward, what you can do is move your hand back a little bit, and then that forces the player to come forward, and then even incorporates that back leg into their pitch. Now I'm going to move it back a little. See, as I back it up, it forces that back foot to come forward. There. One more.
Everybody, Jake Hale here with JH Performance. Today we're going to talk about implementing the changeup. It's one of the first pitches that you're going to implement to your younger guys that'll give them a little bit of a pitch variation in their pitch selection so that they can use it in the games. The easiest way to do this is to just simply implement it into your throwing program on a normal basis at the end after you're good and loose and you've got your accuracy under control. We're going to go ahead and take a relaxed grip changeup. We're not going to call it the circle change because a lot of guys don't have big enough hands yet to make this movement with our hand. Okay, so we're going to go with the relaxed grip. We're just going to make sure our hands nice and square on the ball. Our middle finger and our ring finger are now our fastball fingers. Okay, we're going to have our pointer finger and our pinky relaxed on the side of the ball, and again our thumb underneath the ball, creating our triangle between our fastball fingers. Okay, with this we're just going to play catch. You can do a 2-seam or you can move it to a 4-seam, whatever you are comfortable with, and keeps our hand the straightest when we throw the ball. Now when we talk about the changeup, we don't have to do much but throw it. We don't have to go and turn it over just for the sake of getting to learn the new pitch. Just throw it like a fastball. The changeup will do it itself with the grip. With our changeup grips, most of our guys aren't going to have huge hands, so go ahead and let them kind of swallow the ball with their hand. Again, we want to make sure that middle finger and that thumb are at least in the middle of the ball together. Okay, worst case scenario, it could be these 2 fingers and our thumb making that good triangle. Let the hand rest and just throw it like a fastball. You don't need to do anything more than that. The grip will do itself. With the circle change, if we have guys with big enough hands, the easiest way is either the 4-seam, making sure we're grabbing across the seam with our off fingers, or the 2-seam. Go ahead and grab your middle finger and your ring finger along the 2-seam grip and allow that pinky to rest. Again, the right finger is going to have to creep down the ball near the thumb. The thumb is just going to press the ball into the fingers. Nothing more, nothing less. Again, just throwing a fastball. Let the grip do its work.
This is a basic tee work. Now, all we're going to do is line up your tee on home plate, basically wherever you're at, and line the tee up on different sides of the plate, raise it, lower it. This is really meant for backyard work or beginning after practice if you just want to get some sort of hitting motion going in. Now, when you're hitting off the tee, you really don't want to get that under pop-up swing. Now, when you're swinging the ball to the tee, you want your bat traveling down the path all the way to the baseball. You do not want your bat to go underneath. This is what's going to cause you to hit the very bottom of the tee, make the ball fall completely down. You don't want that. You want the bat and the ball to meet perfectly square up. You do not want to drop the bat. That is what's going to cause flyouts and pop-ups and foul balls and all that. You just want your bat come straight to the ball, line up, line drives. That's all we're looking for. So I'll do a couple examples here. I'm going to line up the tee on the outside of the plate. We'll lower the tee down. We're going to go to right field. Bring the tee inside. Raise it up. All the way up. Now you can see, I dropped my bat, what caused the tee to go back and forth.
Today we're going to talk about a fun drill that I like to help kids engage their hips in their swing. So whether they're right or left-handed, you're going to take the bat and put it behind their back and get the knob of the bat right here in their elbow. A really good way to do this is, can you get your elbow set? There you go. And you can just slide the bat right in between. So he's left-handed, so this is the way the bat's going to sit. And they're going to step up. And what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on engaging the hips. So there's a couple different variations you can do. You can do a soft toss, an angle toss. You can do from behind an L screen. I like doing it just on a tee, especially for our younger kids. And what you're going to do is you're just going to focus on them not winding up or corkscrewing, but just hitting straight and engaging that back hip like there's a cord pulling that back hip. And again, it really is about the motion, not necessarily hitting the ball. The ball is a plus. Scoot up a little bit. There we go. All right. Good, good. All right, one motion forward. Good. One motion forward. Good. One motion forward. Oh, don't forget the ball. One motion forward. Good job. So again, we can do it as a soft toss. You can do it at angle. You can do it from behind the L screen. It's a really, really good exercise. You can start the tee and progress towards or whatever you feel is necessary. All right, so today we're going to talk about another way to really engage those hips on our player's swing. So the big piece of it is a three-step piece, 3 pieces, and then really putting those pieces together into one solid swing. So step 1 or piece 1 is the step, right? So we're stepping and we're keeping those hands back. Step 2, engaging the hips. And if you notice, the hands are still back. And then step 3 is swinging, right? So we're teaching the players to 1, 2, 3. And even if you don't even have to use a bat, you can use a piece of PVC if you want. Bats are always good because they get used to that weight. So again, step 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to demonstrate with a hitter. It's really good to do this off the tee. So let's do those steps nice and slow. So step 1. All right. Step 2. Step 3. Good. So you can have them do this and you can speed it up. Step 1, 2, 2 and 3. That's okay. Step 1, 2, 3. Good. And as you get more, you can have them progress faster, okay? 1, 2, 3. Good. All right, and once they get the hang of it, once you see that those hips are being pulled forward, you could just have them do it all in one sequence. 1, 2, 3. Good. What we're really looking for here is a fast bat through the zone, getting a little bit of lift on the ball, and again, getting those hips to come forward.
This is the Muhammad Ali drill. Now this drill really is meant for the older kids. Now little kids, you can do this drill if you would like to, but I would really focus on the older kids doing this kind of drill. Now this drill is mostly going to be on your footwork. You're really focusing on entering your core and getting your core to the baseball, swinging downward on a perfect path, going perfectly straight to the ball, keeping your arm parallel and the bat parallel, and really focused on that baseball. So all we're going to do, get in your ready position, you're going to go back, forward, back, really load up your energy right here in your center, and when you're coming down, come perfect straight to the baseball. So I'll go ahead and give a little example.
I'm going to show you a drill that my kids absolutely love. This one is called the walking drill or the Happy Gilmore drill. So what you're going to do is we're going to take a running crack at it before they hit with their tee. So what they're going to do is if they're right-handed, they're going to step right, go left, and then swing. So what this does is this teaches them the importance of getting that whole body into the swing, that the transfer of power from that back leg to the front leg, that driving force. So they're going to go step, step, boom, and they can really feel that driving force, really drive the ball out there. Also, this one is really fun and the kids absolutely love it. Today we're gonna practice getting to second. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our kids line up at first base and we're gonna say go. What we're gonna do is they're gonna have go run as if they're running through first base, and then we'll either say stay, in which case they're gonna stay and they're just gonna veer a little bit to the right, or they'll stay on first, or we'll say go to, in which case they are gonna round first base and then they're gonna head to second base. Go. Stay one. Go. Go to. And go. Go to. This is a great base running drill. This one teaches the kids when to go and when to stay. For the little guys, you're gonna start by yelling go or back. But as they get older, you want them to learn when to go and when to stay by themselves. Also, in Little League, a lot of levels you're not allowed to lead off yet, so their foot has to stay on that bag until the ball reaches the catcher. But once you get into the older, when you're allowed to actually lead off, then they're actually going to leave the base, and that's when it's very important that these guys know how to get back on that base and when it's free for them to just go for a second without you telling them, because when you're telling them, that's wasting precious milliseconds that they could actually be running. So with this drill, what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them start on the bag. Their foot is touching the bag. With groups that are not leading off, keep their foot there until you say go. With the bigger guys, you're gonna actually have them take their lead off and then you're gonna say go. For majors and below, our runner is gonna have their back foot on that bag, ready to push off, but he's not losing contact with that bag because he doesn't wanna be out. Go. Ready? Stay. And go. Ready? Go. Now this is going to be the variation for the older guys. Right now they are looking at the pitching mound and they're looking at the pitcher's foot. And now they're going to decide by themselves when to go and when to stay.
So in this one you're teaching the kids to watch the heels of both the pitcher's feet. They know exactly when they go or when they stay. Foot back means they got to get back to first. And they come set. Watch those heels. As soon as you pick up that leg, they go.
They take their lead off. Watching the pitcher's foot. No go. Watching the pitcher, taking their lead off. Back.
Four-cone drill. Now this is a lot like the two-cone drill, except now we have four. Basically what we're going to do is you're going to have your player line up on either side of the cone. They're going to run up, get into position, sidestep over. Once they get over to this cone, they're going to run forward, get into position, sidestep back. Once they get to this cone, they're going to backpedal back to the original spot. Then they're going to run diagonally across. They're going to field the baseball and they're going to throw it over to first. Now this works great for, like mentioned before, footwork, fundamentals of how to execute fielding a ground ball, and conditioning. So coaches, you will very much appreciate this drill towards the very end of practice or at the very beginning of practice. Now a continuation of the four-cone drill, you're going to have your player all the way at the very back corner of the drill. And you're going to run through it all the way again, but But once they get back to the original spot, they're gonna run diagonally again over here. They're gonna backhand the ball, come back through, and throw over to first base. So we're gonna have our player demonstrate that right now. You're really trying to focus, keep your head up the entire time. And then you come up, bop, bop. Got it?
Ready when you are.
There you go. Outside, outside. You're okay, you're okay.
It's called bad hops. This one is great as a coach because you really can't mess it up, because if you mess up, it's good. It's teaching them how to field whatever it is that you just messed up. So what we're gonna do is, for this one, I like to do it bare hand and not with the bat, because you have a little bit more control over it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually aim it into the ground about 3 or 4 feet in front of my players. I don't want to make it too close because you don't want to knock out teeth, but you do want to give it that bounce right in front of them to get that bad hop scenario going. So what you're going to do is you're just going to either hit it to them, or like I said, bare hand, bounce it right in front of them. They're going to feel that ball. That's it. That's the drill. One is called Flip It. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have our kids line up at shortstop, and we are gonna roll the ball or hit the ball to them depending on their level of play and how fast you want it coming at them. So what they're gonna do is they are gonna field that ball, and then they're gonna straight arm flip it over to second base. This teaches the kids to have, for that shorter throw, they're not gonna just take it and gun it at them. They're just gonna flip it to second base. Coach Selena here. What we're going to do is we're going to add on to our Flip It drill. So what we are going to do is we are going to add in that double play. So what we are going to do is we are going to roll the ball or hit the ball to our shortstop. Shortstop is going to field that ball, flip it to second base. Second base is going to turn around, and he's going to throw it to first base to make that double play.
This is a glove work drill. Now I incorporate this drill at the very beginning of practice. You can pick and choose whenever you like to do this drill, but you'll have your players line up across from one another on their knees about 5 feet apart, and all they're going to do, they're going to roll the baseball back and forth between one another. You're going to start off on glove hand. So they're going to roll it to their glove hand. They're really going to focus on coming up and scooping through the ball. You're going to start off with no glove. Do it for about 2 minutes, and then you can go to glove. But all you're gonna do, they're gonna roll the ball, you're gonna come in, you're gonna scoop up, and then they're gonna roll it right back to their partner, and then we're gonna switch over to backhand and do the same exact thing. They're just gonna come up and scoop through the baseball. Come up and scoop through the baseball, roll back and forth. So me and Josh will demonstrate that for you right now.
I'm going to show you an infielding drill that you can do to teach the kids about the cutoff man. So what we're going to do is we're going to have our shortstop, our second base, and then we have right field and center field. So what they're going to do is we're going to throw the ball, hit the ball way out into the outfield, and they're going to bring it in. What they're going to do is they're going to communicate who's got the bag and who's got cutoff. Now if it goes over this way, what's going to happen is second base is going to get the cutoff and shortstop is going to get the bag. If it goes more in that direction, then shortstop is going to get the cutoff and second base is going to get the bag, and they're going to communicate, I got the bag, you got the bag, whatever, but teach them to communicate while they're out there and teach them who has cutoff and who has bag. Now, to make this a drill that's even better, you can add your third baseman and your left fielder as well. This way you can use the whole outfield and the whole infield, and everybody's learning something. You can also teach them that if for whatever reason third base does leave his base, that shortstop has to come in and cover. Occasionally with upper division, catcher will, but you really don't want catcher leaving home in case there's a runner coming in.
The other way, Larry.
This is the zigzag drill. Now this drill really works for little kids and also your big kids as well. Really helps them keep the eye on the ball while it's in the air, and works on opening and closing your hips and routing to the baseball. So what we're going to do, you're going to get into your ready position as an outfielder, nice relaxed. You have foot backwards, however you play the outfield. I like having it open just a little bit. Ball's going to go, you're going to open your hips, start running backwards. You're going to go to this cone, open back your hips this way, follow, open your hips this way, follow, catch, come around, throw it. All right, so this is just a very quick and easy standard outfield drill to do. You're gonna have your cone right in front of you, and all you're gonna do, you're gonna get into your ready position. So outfielders are coming up. You're not gonna be like infield where you're in this kind of position. You're gonna be more relaxed, a little more standing out, get into a nice little comfortable position for you. And then we're gonna run over our shoulder to the left and then to the right. And what I mean by that, if the ball's hit over your shoulder to the left, you're gonna open your hips, get your hips out, and follow the ball. And we're gonna come around, to the baseball, catch it, go all the way through, just like that. Do the same exact thing on the right side of our body. This allows us to just get flexible mobility. It allows us to really focus and work on our footwork, not worry about really catching the baseball. You're going to do this with no baseball for right now. And then as you go along, you can have your coach or other players toss baseballs up into the air, and you can catch the baseball and throw it to wherever you're going to throw. So again, line up, ball hit over your left shoulder, circle under, catch, throw home, come back here, line up, catch, throw home. That's basically all you're going to do for this outfield drill.
Catchers, this one is called quick hands. So what this is going to teach your kids to receive the ball with soft hands. So they're not going to, if you catch it too hard, it's going to pop right out. And if you catch it too soft, like you're catching an egg, that's taking up way too much time and it looks ridiculous. So you're going to teach them to have really good, soft, but confident hands when they're receiving the ball. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw it to my catcher, and he's just going to start barehanded, and he's just going to catch them. When doing this drill, it's important to remember to keep your hands like an L and to have good form as a catcher. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your catcher squat down, and you don't want their knees to be too far in because it's going to get in the way, and you can't move left or right. If they have a nice wide stance, they can go all the way to the left, they can go all the way to the right, and they have all this room for their hands to catch that ball. It's going to be an L shape. Some kids do this, and if it's this far, there's no room to get that backhand here, and no room to come all the way to the other side of that. So keep it at about an L, and then you have this full range of motion for your catcher's hands. What they're going to do is they're just going to catch it barehanded. Everybody, so this is another variation. We're going to do it now with the glove. If you notice, I'm throwing some of them a little higher, some of them a little lower, some a little outside. This way, they know every pitch is not going to be a perfect pitch, and later on when we incorporate framing, they're going to get used to grabbing that ball from other places. And finally, another addition we can do with our quick hands, we're going to have our catcher hold a tennis ball with these bottom two fingers here, and they're gonna just catch with their 3 fingers, just like that. So with the drill quick hands, you can either do it as a coach, just throwing it to your catchers, or if you're busy with other players, you need to keep your catchers busy, you can have your catchers partner up and they can stand in front of each other and just throw it to each other. Again, bare hand, with a glove, or with that tennis ball in that hand, practicing with those 3 fingers catching. You can add tennis balls, and that helps them get that receiving hand, a little more agility. Catchers, this one is a blocking drill. So here I have a hit stick with me, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to point in front of my catcher to the right, the left, or center. And what he's going to do is he's going to block the ball. He's going to drop down right in front, left or right. Okay, left. Good. Center. Good. Right. Okay, so I'm going to have my catcher stop right here, and I'm going to show you his form. So right now what he's doing is he's leaning forward because the ball's going to bounce off this chest protector, and he's going to keep it in front of him. Also, he's at a slight angle here. If he was flat this way, then the ball could roll over to the side and then he would lose it. But at this angle, he's keeping it right in front of home plate. It's important to remember when you are working with your catchers on their blocking that they have good blocking form. So what they're going to do is they're going to drop down on that ball. That front glove is covering any holes in that spot. So if you notice with my catcher here, a ball is not going to get past him because he's covering all that space. It's also got a nice wide stance. It's just a pop-up drill. So what's going to happen is I'm going to stand behind my catcher and I'm going to throw this ball up in the air and I'm going to yell, ball! And what he's going to do is going to rip that mask off and he's going to catch it. So one thing to remember with your catchers when they're catching, so the pop-up, when it's coming off of the bat, it has this kind of backspin to it where it's coming forward. And if catchers are just coming out trying to get it, sometimes it's just going to miss their hand. So it's important they rip that mask off and they're going to turn and they're going to face home plate. This way, as the ball is spinning, it's going to rotate right into that glove. Ready? Ball!
Yeah.
Ready? Ball! Ball! Now with caps, what I'm going to do is instead of standing behind them, I'm going to stand in front of them because most of their balls are going to end up behind them. So they're going to get used to getting them from that direction. A couple more things to remember with this drill is for your bigger guys, teach them to throw that mask pretty far away so they're not tripping on it when they're looking for the ball. And for the little guys, bigger guys as well, you're going to teach them to pick it up when it's this close with their bare hand, so that way they are ready for that throw. They don't have to switch it over to the glove hand and then make that throw. Pick it up, bare hand, ready for the throw. Ball! Ball! Here's a great drill to do if you are by yourself as a coach. You need to keep all your kids engaged, but this one is also really good to hone in on the skills covering home, which is some things that kind of get overlooked during practices and is essential for games. Good defense makes a difference. So what we're gonna do, I have a pitcher, I have a catcher, and I'm gonna line up my base runners at third base, and they all have their helmets because you have to remember your safety. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand there and I'm gonna say go. What's gonna happen is my pitcher is gonna throw the ball to the catcher. And then as soon as it reaches the catcher, my players here are gonna decide whether to run or not. For this drill, as a coach, a lot of times you're gonna wanna send them because right now we're not working on being safe, which you will do. You don't want them to make a play if they're not gonna make it, but for the purpose of this drill, we want them to get used to running and sliding, and for these guys to be covering home. So what's gonna happen is after my runners come in, the pitcher is going to run in and the catcher is gonna feed the pitcher the ball and he's gonna make that tag. With this drill, you have to remember what level you're playing at. So if you're playing at majors and below, they cannot lead off yet. So they're gonna be starting from the bag. Now, if it's your juniors or college, high school, what you're gonna do is they're gonna be starting from the lead off. The first pitch, I'm gonna have them throw a pass ball on purpose. Runner runs in, make that play. Ready. So for upper division players, we're just gonna use the bigger field, so they're not crashing into each other, and we're gonna have them lead off. The lead off. Now the pitch. Pass ball on purpose. Gets in there, and the tag. Get down, get down. Go. Now the pitch. And he's coming back. Good defense at home plate. When a runner is coming in, we want our catchers to make that play a little bit up the third baseline so that way they're not on home plate, because it makes it easier for the umpire to make that out. They'll make that call because they know they're not so close to the plate that it's a toss-up. They know for sure that kid is out because it's over here. We also want to let our catchers know that they're not going to tag up here or the helmet, because if they're making the tag up there, chances are the rest of that kid's body is already touching home plate. So we want them to make that tag on the laces. So if a kid is sliding in, he's gonna make that tag on the foot before it even comes near home. Go. And the lead off. And the pitch. And the lead off. And the pitch. Get in there. One of the great things about this drill is that it can lead to a pickle, it can lead to covering home, it can lead to having those kids get used to having to push that runner back to third, make him afraid to run. So there's all these different scenarios that will come up as you're doing this drill, and it's all great because these are all things that you'll use in an actual game. There's a little variation to the bucket drill. So with my upper division kids, we like to do this one. What I did is I have lined up 3 helmets here, I've stacked them up, and what I'll do is I'll put $5 underneath the helmets, and I have my other kids lined up. Now you can have them spread across on the grass, or you can have them line up like you would do a fielding drill, whatever you want to do. But your kids are gonna have 5 balls each, or 3, depending on how much time you have after practice, and each kid's gonna take a turn throwing it. Anybody that hits the helmet wins. Now, if more than one player does it, they have a sudden death match at the end to see who gets the money. This one is great because once you put money in that, suddenly your kids, their aim gets a whole lot better.